Not long after, the four-person squad successfully regrouped at the edge of the massive abandoned city. They found a seemingly safe spot to start their briefing. A bald, burly man scratched the back of his head and cursed. How today felt oddly bizarre. He's been walking in circles for half a day and hasn't seen a single beast above level 5. However, they got intel that the defense line here was broken and they were to provide immediate reinforcement. The team member with a backpack nodded in agreement, while the one holding a sword remarked that it felt just like an ordinary day in the wilderness. Looking at the quiet plains in the distance, he even thought it was quieter than usual, nothing like what the intel suggested. The girl, also the team leader, crossed her arms and nodded. She also felt something was off. A mission rated AA shouldn't be this easy. If the beasts aren't on the outskirts, then it's very likely they've moved into the city. She raised her head, gazing at the distant ruins, and warned her teammates to stay alert, telling them, if the beasts have all entered the city, the density inside will be far beyond their expectations. The others also looked toward the city, realizing it might be a tough battle. The four of them stopped chatting, their expressions turning serious. They spread out slightly, each watching the other's back, and slowly advanced into the city. The further they went, the quieter it became. When they reached the city, they already felt something was off, but the silence deepened as they moved further in. Thinking it through, they paused and quietly launched a drone into the sky. The bald man watched the controller, but there were no beasts in sight. Another team member scouted the nearby area and found nothing unusual to the north either. The girl was now even more puzzled. How can there be fewer beasts in the city than in the wilderness? This doesn't make sense. One of the teammates wondered if the beasts had moved to another defensive line. The girl dismissed this idea, saying that if that were the case, headquarters would have informed them and wouldn't have urged them to come here so persistently. Suddenly, her communicator beeped. On the other end, someone praised her team for quickly clearing out the beasts and mentioned that their own team had been wandering in the wilderness for a long time without encountering a single beast. The girl shared this information with her teammates, explaining that other squads had arrived. However, like them, they had just entered the wilderness and hadn't encountered any beasts either. One team member suggested that they should head directly to the entrance of the cave. Maybe they'll find out what's going on there. The girl nodded, but she thought it was too dangerous to go there directly, deciding to use the drone to scout out the area first. The drone swiftly flew over the city. From a bird's-eye view, they could see the entire city more clearly. The vast ruins of the city were eerily devoid of any beasts. Finally, the drone reached the edge of the battlefield at the defensive line. Suddenly, something hit the drone. The screen shook violently and then went black. The team exchanged glances and decided to go immediately to see what had happened. Meanwhile, back with the survivors, an old man held the recently downed drone and scolded another person. "Are you out of your goddamn mind? You shot down the reinforcement team's drone." The other person, holding a shotgun, scratched the back of his head with some frustration. He explained that he thought it was some kind of bird. He figured they could give the big boss a different dinner option. The man who lost one of his arms laughed heartily, stirring a pot of soup with his one good hand, telling them not to worry about shooting it down, followed up by saying, "It looks like the reinforcements are nearby. They'll just apologize to them later." As he spoke, everyone instinctively turned their gaze in one direction. Over there, Lu Sheng had just sliced a beast in half, surrounded by piles of beast corpses. Right now, the most important thing wasn't the drone. They were more concerned about what to cook for Lu Sheng next. To them, Lu Sheng was like a god. All of them secretly hoped they could one day become like him. Not far away, the four of them slowed their pace. After leaving the city, their view opened up, but the air was thick with the smell of blood. The next moment, they froze, stunned by the sight of countless beast corpses piled up before them. Blood had soaked the ground, and heaps of beast limbs were strewn everywhere. The bodies of level 6 beasts were stacked together, along with countless level 7 beast corpses. The girl's body trembled violently. Suddenly she heard a noise and turned to see a handsome man holding a long spear in one hand and dragging a beast by the tail in the other, approaching them. "Is there something you need?" he asked. A few minutes later, they reached the temporary camp. On the ground lay the head of a high-level beast, a large pot of soup, and plenty of cooked beast meat. Lu Sheng sat atop an abandoned armored vehicle, holding a piece of beast meat. He looked at them curiously. According to them, they were from the Tiger Scorpion A-rank General Star Team, sent here under orders to provide reinforcements. When Lu Sheng asked his question, the 4 team members immediately stood at attention and saluted him. They explained that the order came from the military headquarters and that dozens of teams had been dispatched. They were the first to arrive. As the girl responded, her eyes involuntarily drifted to the deep pit filled with high-level beast corpses. In her eyes, the man before her had to be an 8th-level Great Grand Master. Lu Sheng was not only handsome and young, but also incredibly powerful. However, she didn't recall ever seeing him in the military. After finishing his meal, Lu Sheng jumped down from the vehicle and asked if the military would be reconstructing the defense line in a few days. He couldn't help but think to himself that the food these past few days was much better than that of the Division 1182's canteen. The girl explained that the original plan was to clear out all the beasts first, but she had already reported the situation to the higher-ups. She estimated that the military would send people here in a few days. Lu Sheng nodded and picked up his spear. "Looks like it's over," he murmured, stretching casually but radiating such a powerful aura that it startled the team. The girl, unable to suppress her curiosity, cautiously asked who Lu Sheng really was. Lu Sheng thought for a moment, realizing he hadn't introduced himself. After a moment's thought, he replied, saying he is from Division 1182 under General Yu. Also, a new recruit has been here for about 2 weeks now. The girl was shocked, thinking Lu Sheng must be joking. Lu Sheng glanced at them, asking if they really thought he was joking. The team gulped hard and took a couple of steps back. Seeing that Lu Sheng was serious, they couldn't help but be amazed. Is a single new recruit holding the entire front line by himself? The girl thought for a moment, and then decided to invite Lu Sheng to return to headquarters with them. She believed that with Lu Sheng's strength, he could easily be rated as a star general, which came with far better benefits than those of a regular soldier. Lu Sheng pondered for a moment. The battles over the past few days made him feel he could break through again, but he needed some resources first. He pulled out his phone, intending to contact General Yu. The girl, unable to contain her excitement, thought that if Lu Sheng was really a new recruit, now was the perfect time to build a good relationship with him. Soon, they arrived at the headquarters. The place was bustling with people, shops, and street food vendors. The girl began to introduce the area, saying this is the Star General District. Many Star Generals bring their families and friends here, and it gradually developed into what they see now. Lu Sheng looked around, feeling satisfied. He sensed the presence of many grandmasters, along with the protection of the military. He thought that he could bring his family here, ensuring they wouldn't have to worry about Lian Su, that crazy bitch, and the retaliation from the Jidao Martial School. After several days of battle, Lu Sheng wanted to find a place to rest and take a bath. However, since it was his first time at headquarters, he didn't have his own place. Just as he wanted to ask where is the nearest hotel, the girl suddenly blushed and with some shyness said, "Tonight, you can temporarily stay at my place. I hope that's okay."
What did he say?
Perhaps you are wondering why Lu Sheng didn't stay at one of the male teammates' places. It might be considered a bit of fan service. Anyway, Lu Sheng didn't seem to mind and took a shower first, followed by the girl. Hot water cascaded down her body, washing away the fatigue. All something her teacher once said. Female martial artists in this era also had the important task of passing on the genes of strong individuals. She dried her hair and wrapped herself in a towel, stepping out of the bathroom. Her eyes fell on a long red eye, and she bluntly making an important decision. Meanwhile, Lu Sheng sat on the couch, sniffing himself. No matter how much he washed, he could still smell a bit of the beast's scent. After a week of battling them and being drenched in their blood, he felt as if the girl walked in. "Sir, are you done with your bath?" Lu Sheng smiled and turned to tell her not to call him sir, but he stopped mid-sentence. He noticed she had changed into a red nightgown that highlighted her stunning figure. He quickly looked away, coughing to cover the awkwardness, and asked if they should go finish his general star assessment. She nodded, but asked if he wanted something to eat first. He awkwardly agreed. Was Lu Sheng tempted? Probably a bit. But the idea of moving so quickly after their first meeting felt inappropriate. This made him think about the male grandmasters or general stars who on average were much older. He then, somewhat boldly, asked her age. She brushed her hair aside and said she didn't remember exactly, but should be over 50. Lu Sheng fell silent, sweating profusely. Seeing his reaction, she patted his shoulder and asked what was wrong. She thought she might be only a decade older than him. Lu Sheng forced a laugh and said, "Pretty close." After that, he just remained silent. His earlier thoughts vanished, as he realized that while grandmasters lived longer than ordinary people, easily live up to a few hundred years. Despite how young she looked, she was even older than his mother. He found himself thinking that Snowy would be a better choice. Wait a minute. Why did he Snowy? Something ain't right. The two arrived at the headquarters assessment center. Several teammates were already there, waiting for them. Seeing them walk in together, they whispered among themselves, thinking that the captain had likely succeeded. Before them stood a tall, grand building. Suddenly, a man in a military uniform greeted the girl, assuming Lu Sheng was a new member of her team. The girl quickly shook her head and said she hoped Lu Sheng would join, and if he did, she'd gladly give him the captain's position. The man looked surprised but didn't ask further. He smiled and said goodbye. The girl explained that he was the captain of another A-rank star general team, known for both his character and strength. They soon entered the building. The first floor was for certification and assessing strength, while the second and third floors were for handling mission assignments. At the front desk, Lu Sheng stated his intention to get certified as a star general. The girl working blushed slightly, but remained professional, asking Lu Sheng to present the relevant documents and a military recommendation letter. Lu Sheng admitted that he didn't have any of those on hand, explaining that his details should already be in the system, as General Yu had prepared everything. The girl, encountering this situation for the first time, didn't make it difficult for him. She entered Lu Sheng's name into the system, claiming that their captain's combat power must have exceeded 16 million. They showered him with praise, speculating that it wouldn't be long before their captain could attempt to break through the dual bridges of heaven and earth, striving to become a great grandmaster. However, the man shook his head. He knew that just breaking through any one of the bridges would require a combat power of over 30 million, and he was still far from that. In the distance, observing that they no longer use machines for testing, the girl explained that the Grandmaster's strength was so immense that even the best machines would be damaged. When asked how they measured blood energy, the girl clarified that the fluctuations in a Grandmaster's blood energy were too significant for accurate testing, so they only measured combat power since it was the best reflection of one's blood energy. As they chatted, the squad that had just completed their test noticed them. The captain walked over and called out to the girl. Lu Sheng saw how she seemed a bit annoyed. However, the girl politely praised the captain's strength, causing him to beam with joy. He then started saying even if he became a great grandmaster, he would never be a match for her, and he wouldn't harm a hair on her head. Lu Sheng felt a chill down his arm, covered in goosebumps, not wanting to be part of the conversation, and was about to leave when the man suddenly asked who he was. Initially thinking Lu Sheng was a new member of the girl's squad, the girl waved it off, saying he was just a friend. Observing their close interaction, the captain took a closer look at Lu Sheng. He was younger, taller, and more handsome than he was. Considering his strength, the captain thought, if Lu Sheng could come here, he couldn't be weak. Suddenly, a strong sense of crisis filled his heart, and he looked at Lu Sheng with hostility. Standing between the two, he thought to himself, could it be that Lu Sheng is after her? Or maybe it's the girl who an old ox eats young grass. That can't be right. It has to be young grass eating an old ox. Either way, Lu Sheng was getting impatient. He had come for a simple test, but was now caught in a jealous drama. He felt an urge to slap the simp away. He then thought to himself, Instructor Snowy is so much better. Wait a minute. Why was he thinking about Snowy again?